Hey friend, Joseph here at SwiftOtter. Perhaps the reason that you are watching this video is because your website is out of date. You know it's on 2.1, 2.2, or soon to be 2.3, and you just need some help or at least some guidance as far as where to go or how to get the site pushed back up to date. And that's the purpose of this video, is to talk through what the process is for such an update. Before we jump in, though, it's important to hammer on why these updates are important. We first talk about the risks, and then we talk about the benefits of upgrading. Risks of not upgrading would be security problems, especially if you're on 2.1 or 2.2. Those are out of support. There is no support from Magento for those at this point. So the big problem is if there was to be a breach of security on your website, you'd be left holding the bag for the fees, for the loss of reputation, for these other issues that come along as a result of your website being out of date, which credit card transactions for the majority of websites are their bread and butter, how they make money. And that creates a real problem when your PCI level goes from, say, a 4 or a 5 all the way up to a 1, which means some tremendous oversight to ensure that you remain PCI compliant. So it's much, much better to get this out of the way right now as opposed to kicking the can down the road, which causes a lot of problems. It's a roll of the dice. Maybe you'll never run into an issue, but if you do, the costs are pretty high. Russian roulette is another way to look at that. So all that to say, the risks are very high. The benefits, I wouldn't say are quite as valuable, but they are still good to have. Depending on which version you're running, you're going to get new features. So, for example, it'll be upgraded page builder, multi-source inventory. Again, depending on which version you're coming from, multi-source inventory allows you to track the difference between quantity available and quantity on hand. It also allows you to track different locations, like fulfillment locations, warehouses, and be able to say, hey, we got this quantity here, or you can do reservations, that sort of thing. So it's pretty powerful. B2B workflow approvals. So allowing companies to say, I want to allow this person or these group of people to approve orders placed by somebody else on our website, live search, etc. So there are some really great features that come out of this, and working with the right team, they will help you craft these features or implement these features in a way that you actually start seeing ROI on such a project. So not only do you get the security benefits and fixes, but done right, you will see value from these other features. It usually requires more of a conversation than just, hey, let's flip the switch and we're good to go. I wish it was like that, but again, I am a very transparent person and I work to set expectations properly. So there is some work that is required to getting the value from these features. So what does the upgrade process look like? Well, there's a couple of steps that are involved. You can boil it down to 3 steps. It's not quite equal steps, but it is pretty much 3 steps. So step number 1, and a absolutely critical part of this, is the audit. The audit is where we or the agency goes through and says, hey, what is the status of the website? I get a lot of feedback from merchants that's saying, I don't know what's going on the site. All I run into is problems and bugs and more problems. And I don't know past that what's going on. I mean, for all I know, I'm losing customer data. And so an audit basically pulls back the covers off of such a black box and says, here's actually what's going on. It needs to be very expert level people, or in our world or our terms, to be like an architect, who would be doing the majority of this audit. Very qualified, very capable, certified developers who understand the inner workings of Magento and how it plays with the customizations that have been installed on your platform. Magento core is pretty stable. The problem is it's these customizations that build on it. They're maybe built for an older version of Magento, and then as you upgrade it, then you would start running into issues because the code is no longer compatible with each other. And that's what the audit shines the light on. It does a really good job at doing that. So once you have the audit, we now have a scope for this upgrade. You understand maybe it's we've given out estimates that are over 100,000. It could be down to, say, 10 or 15,000. Theoretically speaking, it could be less than that, But at the end of the day, I wouldn't advise like hoping for less than that on a given average. And it can vary wildly between those two places. It literally comes down to a whole bunch of other factors, but two primary drivers was the developers who built the site, were they a quality shop? And if they were, that cuts the cost of this upgrade down, and as well as what level of customizations. So, and this ultimately depends on what size of an upgrade is being done. So if it's a really small upgrade, well then, even if it's a massive site, it's probably not as big of an issue. But if it's a large jump from say 2.2 to 2.4, well, in that case, it's going to be a much more involved upgrade. But the audit provides the estimate for that. And that estimate is absolutely crucial to understanding what steps are involved in going forward. And then finally, once we have this audit, we then commence work, build it out. Through this process, we'll be having regular communications with you. You're not going to be kept in the dark at all. It's our commitment to you. Then once we get to the end of this project, well, actually through this project, we'll be keeping you apprised as far as different features that have been released or fixed or updated or whatever. And then we will have a meeting where we say, okay, this is our launch date. At that launch date, your website will be flipped over. It's usually early in the morning, depending on your time zone, etc. But we flip that site over, and then we have a period, call it like a cool down period after that, for what changes or tweaks need to be made thereafter. So that is the process for working on your website, for getting it upgraded to the latest version of Adobe Commerce. Have a good day.